Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the Upset Podcast. We're happy that you joined us this evening, and I'm going to go ahead and bring on my favorite crew, as I like to say. What's up, everybody?
Hello,
Hey,
family.
happy Sunday.
She says that like she has a less favorite crew out there somewhere.
Shh, let's just keep this
I'm just
between
glad
us.
I'm in the favorite group. That's pretty good.
You got that Thursday night crew. You know, there's a Thursday night crew. We the Sunday night crew.
Oh, that's right. She does have a Thursday night crew. That's right.
No,
Ah,
it's just you guys.
the battle of the crews. Let's go.
Yeah.
So what's been going on, everybody? There's a lot, of course, going on in our world, a lot of conversations happening around various topics. What are some of the things heightened on your timeline and in your conversations with friends and family right now?
Well, as a matter of news, we have been following closely the war footing that has been broached, shall we say breached, over in Ukraine with Vladimir Putin. The ability to lie with impunity and bald-facedness amazes me. For weeks he says, I don't know why people are saying this. We are not going to war. I don't know why people are accusing me of this. There's no war. March. And then war started.
Yeah.
And,
He said March.
yeah, I mean, it's just amazing to me. And, we don't know what we're on the verge of, but it
That's
is
right.
something that could be, historical and earth-changing.
Yeah.
And how it
Mhm.
affects all of us. I mean, with
All of us,
inflation, the
Mhm.
prices are already up for food and gas, and that's going to get worse. Man, I might start eating meat again. Good gracious,
Yeah.
vegetarian food is
Yeah.
well expensive.
Well, you know what they say, when all else fails, they take you to war. But I wanted to,
Chuck, don't think you're gonna get away with that statement just now. I heard you. And that's
well,
that's
from an
another
economic
show.
point of view.
That's
from
another
an
show.
Yeah, it is.
The war brings everything back for us.
Right.
That's true.
But the thing that was on my radar this week, the Canadian truck protests.
Oh,
They
yes.
kind of brought that to a halt. But I don't like the way they did it by saying that, we're going to freeze the bank accounts of protesters and this kind of draconian kind of stuff they're doing up there. Trudeau was doing up there. And I think, personally, I just think it's a test to see how far they could go.
Okay.
I mean, to say we're going to freeze your bank accounts if you don't stop protesting. All right, sure. There were some things that the truckers did. There were some incidents, but for the most part, it was a peaceful demonstration. So what does that say? What is that going to come to the U.S.? And I know the truckers here are thinking about protesting.
Yeah, they
But
are.
Chuck,
It's already started. Yeah, it started.
But weren't they preventing the flow of things coming in and out of the country that they needed
Yeah.
for economics? And so
Yeah.
True.
A lot was right.
they took it to another level. And
Yeah,
so, businesses were crying because they needed their stuff.
Yeah, but see, they cross the line when they say, okay, Marlena, you won't move your truck. Fine. I'm going to shut down your bank account. So you can't pay your rent. You can't buy your clothes. And because
neither
you're a
buy nor
protester
sell.
right. All I'm saying is, I'm not supporting those who went up, over the line with protests, but for the government to say, this is our punishment, that could be a very bad omen, for the future of protests. So that's all I'm saying.
I agree. But I think all of that happens because of the hard-heartedness of men. When we ask you nicely, can you move your trucks so we can get by, please? You ask them and they don't do it. And it was the same thing that happened with the vaccination. I'm not trying to go there. I'm sick of talking about that. But I'm just trying to say how people refused. And so then folks said, wait a minute, my children going to school and they're getting sick and I'm out here, people dying. Do something, so it's okay. We'll do a little partial mandate for, people have a lot. Why would he do that? That's terrible. This man is crazy.
Right.
And so it causes a response that is a little bit stronger, and then the protest, and then poor fella, they say, oh, he's the worst guy ever. And so I anyway, don't get me started.
Go ahead, Marlena. Go ahead. We were with you. We were with
me.
Marlena always says, don't get me started after she got started.
Because there's so much more to say. There's so much more to say. You talk about a man, you say he can't, because I'm all off now. Chuck's issue. I'm on another issue, but with protesting. But I'm saying you're gonna say that he just hasn't done a thing about this virus and the vaccine. People are still dying. Well, what can a person do who's not God if he asks you to take the vaccination and show you everything and give you historical and statistical facts, and then you refuse to do it? You say we're not going to wear masks. We're not going to do anything. Everything is going to be. And he says, "Oh, it's a shame how he just can't get get a handle of this virus." And I'm like, what can a person do? So anyway,
well, not and other thing we could go by this really quick, pass by this really quick. But the Maryland school board lists the mask for
the mask mandate.
So I mean,
that's happening.
We'll see how it goes.
I got it on good account that next week Philadelphia will lift theirs.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think
thought some of PA had already opened.
Yeah, and part of New Jersey is headed that direction in the months to come. They're talking about it. So
yeah, well, my children will be wearing them when they go to school. I'm just saying. But I do want to follow up. I know last week we mentioned, what happened with Oakwood Adventist Academy's basketball team, and of course the game they did forfeit, and people were upset. And it turns out the governor, Kay Ivey, I believe the governor of Alabama, got involved and demanded to some answers.
Very good.
From the association in terms of like who made the decision. How can we make sure this never happens again? And so it's great to see that it wasn't just something that was unsettling to the Adventist community, but the governor got involved and CNN ran the story. So, it's really kind of another way of bringing attention to, something, being sensitive to people's beliefs and making those types of accommodations when it's, that was a small accommodation, moving it for an hour, like, it wasn't even a big deal.
And Tasha, I got a couple of calls also that came in for Beta to strengthen our sports throughout the 9 conferences, not just the churches, but also the schools, and use it as a way of evangelism to also bring Baptist schools, Baptist churches and Baptist schools in as long as we run it. So, but I see both ways, because some people are like, why we got to start our own? This is a law type thing. I say go both ways, peel the banana on both sides.
Yeah.
Huh?
All right. Well, there's always
some banana on both sides.
You peel one side and then you peel the other.
There are normally multiple slices.
I've never known anybody to eat half of a banana. I mean,
or you but pull half at one time.
Peel it on one side, eat that half, and then save the rest for later.
Nick, I know that Latasha always brings us in, but it was about the gorilla thing you were talking about walking in the season. Nobody will understand. That was in our green room, so I thought you would understand that part. But it's okay.
Oh my goodness!
No, that's guys. Before we move on, I forgot to even mention this last week. Do you realize this is February?
Right.
And when we first launched the Upset podcast was actually a year ago.
Nice.
Like, does it feel like we've been doing
a year
this
ago today?
year?
It feels like 5 years.
Time for a raise.
Nick about to retire.
Yeah. That's why he dyes his hair. Yeah. Not to show the gray.
1 year.
Everybody thinks that,
Happy podcast anniversary.
Yep. Happy podcast.
Oh, okay. I was like,
what is in that
podversary?
I'm sorry.
He can't say happy birthday. He's peeling half of a banana.
And so, Patrick, why are we here?
I was just figuring that I could walk into the grocery store with Susan, Nick.
Oh, there you go.
Go ahead, Latasha. Bring me on, because I don't want to just come on.
So we're wrapping up our Black History Month emphasis, and we decided to kind of take a topic that's not necessarily usually talked about, particularly under Black history, but it does affect our history, and there's a lot involved with this topic as it relates to our history. And that is what, Patrick, we're going to turn it over to you to say what we're talking about today.
Well, Nick, if you do me a favor, you know how to do it. You know the street corners out in Philly where they had the radio stations that only could go for like 10 blocks of radius that they had out there. some people who are far away are in the country, like where Latasha came from. They don't understand all of that. They don't get
You
that
know
stuff.
what?
But good, I need your radio voice right about now. Come on, let me get
Ladies
it.
and gentlemen, we're about to talk about a topic that is hotter than a pancake griddle in the middle of Hawaii.
In the middle. Oh, why?
I don't know.
Hawaii.
I don't know, Nick. You got it. But really, I think this is important for us, especially those who have, especially our young people who are coming up now, not to forget the now, not to forget what has happened in the past, but you can see that, and let me switch it up better this way. There's a movie that's out called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. It came out in like 1967. And same type of thing happened with me. Everybody, we're talking about interracial, not just dating, marriages, but also relationships. All right. I'd like to broaden it out just a little bit. And my son went to Andrews University, didn't go to Oakwood.
But you still love him.
Moment of silence.
Went to Andrews University, and he's going to bring his friend home for Christmas. He's going to bring his friend home for Christmas. And I'm not going to say it was a gigantic surprise, but when
You do mean the opposite sex friend.
Yes, Marlene, this show is interracial.
Show, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
you started talking, you said, and friendship. So
Yeah. No.
it could have been a male friend.
No, you're right. I want to make that right. But you know something? Listen, and if you want to be realistic, we can broaden that out, because it can be friendships also that's that's interethnic or interracial. And even in that also, even though that's not our pinpoint today, my son had a lot of white friends, Indian friends, and so forth. But here he brings her home, and we knew she was of German descent, and I really mean that. I mean, she's from there, and Upper Michigan, then the peninsula. She comes home.
Pat, I just want you to know you did the white people pause. Yeah, whenever white people us talking about, they say, well, I have a friend of mine who is black. And but you just did that one. Go ahead.
And you know something, Nick, in us talking about this, not only in the green room, but before and getting this thing together, I had to do some introspection on the way that I really think. It's another way to say it. There's another way to act it, but what am I thinking that's going to come around? Because when she came to the house, we were over friendly. Yeah. I mean, we went. You understand what I'm saying? We ain't say anything.
Yes.
Oh
You're
no,
nice, black.
We're not racist.
Yeah.
No, we have white friends.
Yeah.
Taking 20 pictures in 5 minutes, right?
And posting them on Facebook so that everybody will
Isn't that
know.
Amazing?
We're not racist.
Yeah.
But what happened when we started to get comfortable, we literally had to change the way we talked.
Yeah.
Because when everybody came over for Christmas, there's always something to talk about. And when I say something to talk about, it was the height of all the racial tension that was going on. How do you speak about that in your family setting, hoping that you don't offend the next person? I also remember this, and let me just tell you how the twist came. And those of us who were in this meeting, Chuck, Latasha, we were in a meeting at Pine Forge when I got the call that came in that he got beat up. And up in Michigan, I was sitting in the executive building, and I got the call that he's been beat up, and we may have to fly out there to go get him. And when they sent the pictures of his face, I had to go out in the hallway and throw up. But the hatred, because he was walking with his white girlfriend, that the guys came out and beat him up because of it. You want to know how I felt then, and it still has residual feelings now?
Yeah,
I can feel it now.
I'm not going to fake with you. My thing was to take a flight out there and to meet with people in Detroit, to take a trip. And there was nothing that was going to stop me from doing that. So the truth is that even after we have met her, and we loved her, and I want to be clear on that wasn't a ministerial
nothing to do with her, right?
Nah, we loved her. We loved her, and we still love her. But I knew that there was something still here, still deep inside, that I still needed to clear, not only with her, but with others that I saw now, because the world has opened up, not just them anymore, but the people who are in church. When I go down to Virginia and I go down to some of our churches, they're mixed, they're in mixed marriages and mixed relationships. Yeah. And now we have to sit there, and I have to sit there. Let me take it personal before we go out. I have to sit there and say, is this something we should be doing? What kind of challenges are they going to have for the rest of their lives?
Define this. What is the this that you're speaking of?
Nick, this is my part of the show. I'll ask the questions when it comes to this.
This oppression.
You know what this is, Nick? I have to admit that I feel uncomfortable, even when it's not a part of mine. And I'm not going that route to say I hate white people, or I hate, and forget white people, because you can go to distance. I feel like, couldn't you find another route? Couldn't you go another way? Because now you are asking, that's the word, you're asking for trouble. And so I think what I want to throw out there is that while we have this conversation for the next couple of minutes or so, help me, right? And help those of us who call ourselves Christians, who call ourselves, there's no east side, west side of the kingdom. You know what I mean by that. You know what I mean? Because some people want to go to the other side of the kingdom where they sing better, or whichever. I want us to have a conversation, because there are people who are listening who are like me, that don't hate white people, but rather something else. Or not white people. Don't hate inter-ethnic relationships, but would rather something else.
Yeah, I think what your experience is what thousands of families experience. It's cultural backlash. If an interracial couple could be on an island somewhere where there are no other cultures except the two of them, they would be fine. It's the cultural pressures. I've had it in my family. You know, family reactions, being disowned, and all this kind of stuff. These are backlashes, and I believe that when two people truly love each other, they fight against that. But it's hard, because they have to come to the conclusion. Some have to come to the conclusion, well, it's either my mate or my family.
Right.
And that's hard to process. Do you throw away mom, dad, uncle, cousins for this one person? You know, do you love them that much that you allow the backlash to destroy your relationship? It's very deep and very complex. But I can tell you from personal experience, and I'm sure you've experienced this, and from others, that is generally cultural backlash. Family, neighborhood, workplace, you know, that's the pressure they feel, and it challenges their love.
I want to put this out there. This is for all of us and those who are also listening in the chat, and everybody, please take the time to share this with someone, because everyone goes through this, and I just want us to have this as a way of just open up conversation. How many of us have other ethnic cultures in our families?
I think we all do. I mean, GP didn't raise his hand or say anything.
barely.
Yeah. More like cousins. I don't have like in my immediate, like that my siblings are, but yeah, I have cousins who have married outside of the race. And for us, you know, I've never really had a problem. I don't have a problem with anyone marrying anyone. But I do think about, like you were saying, how society is going to treat them. So the concern comes not from, oh, you're marrying outside your race, but how is your life now going to be impacted because you've married someone of a you know.
Hold on, before Tally goes, if a black person were to say, I don't hate black people, I just prefer white people, how would you feel?
Mad.
I was going to get close to the same kind of question.
For dating or marrying. Like, I don't hate them, but
you have not lived until, as a black man, you walk in a restaurant with a white woman, and black women are giving you the stink eye. Let me tell you, you ain't lived until that happened to you.
No, because you know what they're saying. You know, there's not enough good black men to go around, and you know they don't want.
Well, you feel unwanted.
Yeah, or you feel like, oh, we're not good enough. Your own's not good enough. There's so many different.
Let's unpack that. We understand that the interracial interracial relating was fearful to the dominant class of people in America originally, white people,
Sure.
because they were afraid of losing identity and afraid of losing privilege and superiority.
Right.
We get that. Why is it offensive to Black people?
Okay, so it's almost seen as that whole thing that white is right. We say that about like businesses. We say that about it. The same thing for some people applies with relationships. You're dating, because I've heard some Black people say, I want to marry up, or I want to marry a white man so I can get this status, or I can have this and that. And so they target white males because of the status that they want or what they think that's going to bring them. So some people, when they see that happening, they put that onto that couple. Oh, he just married her, or she just married him for his money, or
For a good credit score.
Right. There's something other than love that's motivating that. It's almost like you're a sellout. You're viewed as a sellout. Like
so it's a repudiation of one's own Blackness, one's own
some people
orientation.
Well, if I might add, my sister-in-law is white, sweet young lady, nieces, of course, they're mixed children, wonderful people.
Hold on one second.
I love them.
You notice that you have to qualify them.
I don't. I'm trying to speak from the heart and let you know.
No, I know a Black person.
Listen.
He's a good Black person.
I knew Nick was coming with it.
My boys.
He's one of the
dated.
good
He's a smart Negro.
My boys dated white girls when we didn't
nice
have
white girls.
They were nice girls.
Yes,
and I have excellent friends that are my sisters, right? My peeps, right? So I don't have a problem with anyone dating, across races and things like that. I mean, I just feel people should love whomever they want to love, racially, not. Y'all know what I'm saying, but what I do think about.
Yeah.
Would you?
Don't go down.
I'm not going there. I'm sticking to the script.
Yes. Go ahead.
My issue now is, as Chuck was saying, societally. I think that there is, and I would still not tell anyone to not date or marry, someone of opposite race because of that. You have to know the signs of the times and know that you're going to have struggles. What I would want to do is certainly support any interracial couple that I see, that I know, to let them know that I love them, because my family, I don't see their color. We're together, my friends, you just don't see it. It's the evilness of society, that pits people against each other. And as I was talking in the green room of how, Black history, I like to look at history things, and I'm on the History Channel and I'm looking at, the Civil War and how people were so evil towards one another, just to maintain the ownership of Blacks and slavery for economics. They just wanted to have, better economical, country and things like that. And the hatred, just of people, and it hasn't changed. That's why, there's still so much inequality with pay, amongst the races and genders and things like that. And it has just made this world, this racism has just made this world just so horrific that people just can't still love each other and build family and relationships. Though I do, I'm going to end Tally. I know you got to say something, but I do want to say this.
I just want to ask you a question. That's all.
I want to say this, that even though I feel like that there is still something that happens when I see multiple of our brethren, still choosing white, ladies over us, if they say, that's their preference. You see what I'm saying? Because some stated that's my preference. And I was like, okay, now we are ostracized on both sides now, what do we do here? So that kind of gives you a little awkward feeling.
No.
A few seconds ago, you said that that a white person in your family, you don't see her color, or?
That's right, I don't.
So colorblind?
Love is, yes.
Oh, so, but
I hope you all see my color. I hope. I pray. I hope.
Yeah, 'cause
Love
you can
is
see it, but accept it. You acknowledge it, but you know obviously know she's white, but that doesn't impact how you treat her. That's what you're saying, right, Marlon?
GP
That
knows what
line
I'm
is
saying.
used a lot.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
but that,
I don't.
yeah, but when white people use it against black people, it is very offensive. When a white person says, "I don't see color," that
Right.
that is a denial of a unique set of lived experiences. I mean, if you don't see color, then the next time I see you, Marlene, I expect you to be wearing a yellow shirt with green polka dot pants and purple scarf and everything not matching because you don't see color.
I've seen her like that, and you know what
Oh, no.
she meant, and you know what, and I get it. I think
Mhm.
it's all about acceptance, and I do
Yeah.
understand, and
Mhm.
I know we're playing with words right now, but
Yes, they are.
I'm saying,
No, not really.
No, but that's true though. I
You
do.
have to embrace a person's. For example, if you
See the
tell a white
color.
person, "I don't see your color," that means I expect you to act like I might act. When in reality, their lived experience will not allow them to do that.
I mean, I just think is, we make it more semantics, of when we say that we see color, we don't see the discrimination, we don't see the hatred because of the color of your skin. That I should hate you because you're not like me.
Hmm.
well, let me just go back to this, and I get it because now I see both sides as we're
Mhm.
going through
Yeah.
this. We ought to be mindful that even if they say it, I know how I would feel if my next door neighbor, his name is Dan, and he's white. I know he's white. There's just no doubt about it. His children, I remember when his wife was pregnant, the children wanted to name the next baby Beyonce or no, well, it's because of the environment they're growing up in and what they decide to watch and whatever they want to see someone that's a singer or successful in that world or whatever the case may be. So I don't want to take that away. I do know that we have a heaven to go to. All right. And I really mean that. I don't mean to kind of switch it up and make it seem as though we're trying to make it to the kingdom and we can't mask how we feel with hate, or we can't mask how we feel with indifference to someone if we're going to make it to the kingdom and see them in the kingdom. I
That's right.
think, and I need to be straightforward with that because I have to, and we all around the table have to be able to deal with how we really feel in order for us to come to the conclusion of, is this the way God wants me to think through this? Because when my son broke up with her, we still talk to her. She
Mhm.
still calls, we still embrace her. But now
Right.
he's dating someone else.
Right.
I want to be honest. And she's
A sister.
Did,
she's
did you just do the pause
Well,
again?
yeah, I did the pause.
Again.
No. She's
well,
she's black. She's black. But it's
well,
go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead. I'm
no, I was
sorry.
going to say what you explained there was the dynamic of when a couple or individual's relationship with each other has gone beyond color and culture. When that relationship is sealed with their love between each other, it goes beyond
Sure.
Mhm.
even society's opinion about
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
I in preparation, one of the videos you shared, where interracial couple, and they were asked this question. Well, does it bother you that your family reacts a certain? Does it bother you that people stare at you when you go in a restaurant? Does it bother you? And they said, no, not at all. Doesn't bother us.
Mhm.
And they said, in fact, we kind of get a kick out of it. That's because their relationship has gone beyond societal pressures, beyond societal opinions, beyond even their families' pushback.
Chuck,
And that is
uh,
strong and that is
They go to the
challenging.
right neighborhood, they will get a kick out of it. Trust me.
here's what Chuck, I agree with you. Here is where I think my thing comes in, is where I don't want them to have to cope with something that they don't. And I'm looking at the coping side of it. So, for example, you get married, and remember, I know we're thinking black and white. We're coming out of February. We think black and white, but it can be Indian. It can be Hispanic.
Absolutely.
My daughter dated a Hispanic guy, and
Right. Could be German and Jew.
and it could be German and Jew. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're exactly right about that. Or what kind?
Mhm.
I'm actually one of the races that they have listed is Native Indian. Native Indian, and and how easy it is. Man, this is going to be so different to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. How easy it is in our colloquialism when we say you have Indian hair, or marry her because she has long hair, or no, but I mean, but we literally hear those
Sure.
type of
Oh,
things.
absolutely.
I never
I
noticed
want my
Pat
baby to
having.
have pretty hair.
I want my baby. Exactly. Or you marry someone like
And
Tally, so you hope
and
that your
that's
baby
and
will
you know
come
what?
out
That's
with
challenging,
good
Marlena.
speaking.
What's pretty? What's
Yeah,
pretty?
right,
Who
right.
sets that standard of what pretty is?
That's right.
You know, I've had
Culture.
people even in school when I was coming up. People say, "Oh, you have good hair."
Right.
I said, "What? Good hair?"
Yeah, it's
Because
so
kinky
nice.
is perceived as bad. Kinky is
Right.
perceived
Only
as
if
And
it only if it
we
fights you,
create
you
it.
know. I
We
mean,
create that. We
because
create
every once in a while my hair would just rise up and fight me. But I mean, so
that's
that
why
was
Madam C.J. Walker is so famous today.
that is true.
Because
That is-
we no longer wanted the kinky. But I do want to say this to you as well, dude. My dude, Graham there.
Mhm.
We live in a society now where your children can get backlash even more because it's just the color of their skin, period.
Sure.
Right.
I
It's nothing
agree.
to do with who they're dating or anything. I mean, me, I'm always telling my boys, hey, don't speed, don't do this. I was like, you're black, I was like, you're gonna go to jail for 100 years for speeding, I said that whatever, that you're gonna be treated so much worse, and I'm constantly drilling those things in their heads because of I know driving while black, certain things, happen. I had a BMW that I was going to say one of my sons wanted the car. I said, Mom, I want that car. I said, you will never drive my car like that. I said, not because I wouldn't want to give it to you. I would not want you to be persecuted because you're driving a car like this. Right. And so when you talk about, your son, I know you and that y'all love people. So I know that's not the issue, but the fear right now, we can have backlash on any level. So, if they're
Well,
dating
Mar-
interracial person,
go ahead, Nick. I'm
couple.
sorry. Go ahead, Nick. I'm
I just
sorry.
wanted to ask a question, Pat, and that is, and
Are
talking
you
about
asking me or are
interracial.
you asking Marlena? Because I know you usually after Marlena.
I'm throwing it out. I'm throwing it
Oh,
out
okay.
generally.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Is there a biblical basis for thinking that would allow for the prohibition to intermarry? I mean, do people just wake up in the morning and say, "Yeah, I think I'm not going to like people who don't look like me," or is there a biblical basis? And before you answer, I offer to you Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 3, where it says, "Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons." How about this one? Uh, uh, in Judge, no, let's see. We look at the story of Samson, where intermarriage became a problem. Joshua 23, it says, "Even those that remain among you, you shall make marriages with them and go into them, and they to you, and then they will ruin you." Is there a biblical basis for prohibiting intermarrying?
To me, that goes back to our discussion, which you so eloquently led out on blacks in the Bible. And we were talking about how the Bible really doesn't deal with race. Okay. They don't make it a point to describe people by race. A lot of it had to do with their belief system. So, encouraging them not to intermarry is because of, having different beliefs that they felt would lead them away from God. So
right.
when we look at those verses, it's not saying don't marry them because they're from there and that's their culture. It's saying because they believe this, which doesn't align with your beliefs. So it's almost like that being unequally yoked, like some people say.
Right.
So it has nothing to do with race, and so when people use that as the context for why we shouldn't intermarry, it's really misplaced.
I agree with Tosh 100%.
Nick, you're gonna go against Latasha and Marlena. I just feel like they're on the gang up this morning.
100%. That has to do with the God that they worshipped.
No.
Well, okay. So
Yeah,
would it be a reach or a stretch to say, okay, I've seen a pattern of demonic activity from this group of people, and so I don't want to intermarry with that evil?
Just on X speaking right there now.
Like, I'm just saying, like,
but on the
is
flip
that a
side,
stretch?
GP. But on the
Is that a
flip,
stretch?
No, but on the flip side, GP, you got Rahab, right? Who's outside of the am I right? Rahab
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Moabite.
who's a part of the lineage, or who brought forth the part of the lineage of Jesus Christ. So I think that it's a matter of
Ruth too. Ruth.
and Ruth. That's right,
Right.
and Ruth. I'm saying, and you can name a whole lot
Rahab.
more.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Ruth is Moabite. Yeah.
So when I think of that, Nick, I think that we could use it as excuses the same way that they use the excuse of slavery coming out of Noah's sons and the different races. You go here, you go there, and this one is cursed, right? This one is supposed to live under the camps. That's where that whole thing came from. It's always supposed to live under the camps of his brother, and therefore this is where we are. I think where we have been over Jim Crow. Let's bring it a little bit closer to home, Jim Crow, and where we are now. When we look at Jim Crow laws and coming out of slavery, and we did talk about this before, that there were white slave masters' wives and daughters that slept with slaves, whether it's for fun or whether it's to produce or whatever the case may be. It has happened to the point where, I hate to use this word, but we call them half caste, the children. They're treated differently or even worse than the mother and father. I wouldn't call them husband and wives, but mother and father, which has caused even the reason more why people would say, I don't want you to mix not cultures, want you to mix. Let me just say, and I have a little list here that I'm reading from. Did it derogatory comments in public? I know what you're saying. Let's fight. Let's fight, honey, together, so that no one will do this to us or will play against it. But still, it's a coping mechanism, right? Do they really rest from that, or is there something they think of? Let me just name a few: loss of contact between families, negative comments online or even on the media. Even right now, if you white, black, or whatever, and you put it on social media, someone is going to comment. Even one of your friends are going to comment something negative about it. Negative stereotyping, open hostility and intimidation. I'm just reading down. Rejection from family or being disinherited. Come on, we've heard that. We've seen that happen before. Sense of isolation. But more than that, the stares, the insults, the whispers, all of that goes on. I think for me, I don't want my son or my daughter to go through that. So instead of me thinking it through, what I end up doing with that is I end up saying to myself, I don't want it. And I think that's my problem. Hold on. Let me say this, Marlene, because I know how I'm supposed to be, and I forget about supposed to be. I know where God has taken me with this. But it's really for our listeners who feel the way I feel and want to stay this way and be stuck this way. Do you understand what I'm saying, Marlena?
Yeah, I understand. I don't have any issue with what you're saying there, because when I watch the movies and I see the history, I get mad myself. But what I was just trying to say, our kids, they intermingle now, and you love people that you are around. You love people that you build relationships with, and those you hang out with. That's how the love starts. So even though it might be, evil races, on either side, people love a person.
Right.
They're not looking to love the whole race, right? They're loving that person. And so when they're going to school together, which that's why they wanted the schools to remain segregated, because they didn't want us gathering together. Now the kids are. And so, relationships are happening. So when they bring them home, how do you act? You love them like God wants you to love them.
Yeah, and they don't want to let hate win. So you say to them, "Oh, this is what can happen. This is what you're going to deal with." And they're like, but that's not right. Why should I give in to societal pressures when I love someone? They're the ones that are wrong. Why should I be the one that acquiesce, to their twisted thinking? And I agree with that. I even though I feel it, say for people who are experiencing it, I would never discourage them from it, because you shouldn't. I mean, that's how you feel. You should go based on that, not act out of fear of what may come as a result.
I just want to encourage Pat, because by the year 2075, should the Lord tarry his return, there'll be no more white people left. So you'll be fine.
They will be the minority, right?
Do any of you think differently when you see an interracial couple than you do when you see a homogeneous couple? I mean, when you see, for example, let's say you went to church and your new pastor came, and your new pastor's mate was white. Would you think differently? Would you feel differently?
Is the pastor a woman or?
And I intentionally left it gender neutral so you can make the choice. But
I don't think I feel anything. As a matter of fact, I have multiple.
You don't feel anything different when you see an interracial couple,
cultures.
Marlena?
Can I be honest with you at that?
I'm trying to be honest.
This is Marlena who's getting ready to throw a Molotov cocktail because she saw a documentary.
That was how they were being treated, right? How you were treating me.
I felt mad. I felt angry.
I feel angry, when they're just beating people as a race. But
when you see Gretchen and Luther come in church.
You see, that's wrong as it is, Nick, that you even gave them names that no, but Nick, can I say this?
I'm Ashley and Jamal. I mean,
okay, go ahead. That's fine. And Rodney.
Raheem and
so
Rick
here's my
and
thing.
Megan.
Let me answer that question for you because I know me. I will always ask myself I'd like to call myself a behaviorist, right? Mm-hmm. I would want to know, how did they get together?
Yeah, you're interested in their story, maybe.
The storyline of how they got together, even if it had to deal with what did you have to overcome to get to where you are right now. I mean, I would deal with that because even though we're in the same races, I can always flip to my family didn't want us to marry African American, right? So, and gave reasons why. Mm-hmm. And they're faulty reasons at that. Okay. When I say they're faulty, they're crazy faulty. They're not even, you can't even, but if I went on to believe that, I'm just taking that in that context. If I went on to believe that, then now I'm going to do that for the next generation and the next generation till it, all of our cousins just simply decided we ain't listening to the last generation. And I think that's really the way it is, the way it should be. If we're teaching love, from the standpoint and we already said this, I love this person. I love we call her my daughter in love. They weren't married, but I when I walked into the store with them or I we all went out to eat or whatever, people did stare. And what I wanted to do was give them, I really wanted to cuss them out because they didn't know how much I loved her. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I still love her. So my thing is that I'm gonna use this, everybody, and those who are listening, you have to grow every day to be better than the way you were yesterday.
That's right.
Jesus in us. Yeah.
And Marlena, I'm
100%
on that. I'm 100% on that because what I was telling you really just to agitate us is the way I felt. Because I think I would have more of a problem with my kids dating someone, listen to this now, of a different language than a different ethnic group. Okay, I know that's a different story, but the point I mean is because of communication, because being able to speak with one another, to be able to talk with one another. I think that is one of the things that would jump out at me more now than the color of their skin or cultural. There's a lot of people. Nick, what?
I'm seeing the picture of that saying, so look now, that sister with that Swahili just can't. I can't have it.
No, this Itsy with that they can learn it. I mean, you can't change the color of your skin.
No, Pat said no. Look, I need you to go back and get Ashley. Go back and get Becky with the good hair.
Disappeared again.
So I have a story. So the question is, before I tell the story, can someone who is married to someone who is not Black be committed to the Black struggle and to the liberation of Black people? So
I don't know.
When I got to the Church of the Oranges,
I'm going to call Harry Belafonte.
When I got there, I preached a sermon on social justice from the story of Shifra and Pua. And at the end of my sermon, we're new at the church. Someone comes to me, pulls my jacket and says, "How can you preach a sermon like that when you have a white wife?" Now, they did not know that my wife is 100% Black. They didn't know that. But they said, "How can you preach a message like that with a white wife?" And I laughed. And, but I thought about it. Like, people really believe that if you're not married to a Black person, you really aren't committed to the Black struggle.
Right. Well, what that does is it brings out a lot of your own racism. This is why people get angry. It brings their own racism out. I'm entertained by it. I'm when I've gone places with relatives Caucasian in my family, I get a kick out of it. In fact, before we walk in the store, we say, "Watch what happens." Look across there. You see that lady? She's staring at me. Look at that.
Come over
Look
here.
at her.
Come over here and hug me. Come over here and hug me.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait a minute, GP. Jackie is she's not white?
No, I was going to say, I mean, she's 100%. Can we move on, please?
I know that 100%. I'm like, when he said 100, I was like, it ain't 100.
Preacher talk.
She could be in the movie Passing.
Hold on, y'all missed him. Did you hear what he just said? That's preacher talk.
Preacher talk.
He done 50 10 and baptized 1,000 people.
Yeah.
I mean, but take a look at people like Frederick Douglass, who was married to a white woman, Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier. I mean,
guess who came to dinner?
Yeah, I mean,
I would think that there
and
were
stayed.
strong supporters. You see people who stand for what's right. They just stand for justice, no matter the color of their skin. And so you certainly have people.
You can, I mean, they now the thing that would have been bad is if they had married somebody speaking a different language.
Oh,
no. Like that?
Oh no,
that's
here we go.
Bad, right?
I'm popping out the shoes and everything. Okay.
Can you speak English, please? I can't understand you.
Come in and say, "This is my new girlfriend. Buenos dias. Take her home."
I don't know.
But to speak to what GP,
go ahead, Chuck. You've been talking.
I was going to say, to speak to what GP was asking, can you support the struggle? And it's not just black. If there's a difference in ethnicity, and there are challenges on either side. If you are married to someone and you love them and they are so important to you, yes, you will support the struggle.
Yes, you will.
Yes, you will get out there on the line. And yes, you will carry Black Lives Matter signs and whatever. And you can be just as white as can be, or as black as can be, however you want to look at it. I think we should mature spiritually and mentally and go past the racial narrative. If we can go past that, then all of these predispositions and the narratives that society has imposed upon our thinking, we could have a healthy relationship, and families could have a healthy relationship. If we have to be intentional about it. We have to, it won't be easy in a lot of cases.
We don't need an Allegheny East and a Pennsylvania conference.
Go ahead, Tasha. Go ahead, Tasha. You were going to say something.
No.
So, is there any way you can get Nick out the whole program?
Where's the broom?
I know, right? But no, kind of going alongside with that, in terms of standing up. Can you still stand up for causes, without feeling like you may be offending your spouse or, there are cases, well, we see it a lot with interracial couples where if they marry, say a black person marries outside of their race, sometimes the white person or the other race doesn't recognize how the black struggle until they're in a situation where something happens.
Right.
And they're like, "Did you see that?" And they're like, "What happened? Did you see how he just said this to me?" And they're like, "No, I didn't even notice." So it becomes almost like an education for them to say, "Oh, that was racist," or they looked at you like that because you're black. And so sometimes, that's an opportunity for learning for the other part. And sometimes that's also a struggle in the relationship because you feel like you're constantly trying to convince your spouse that, no, they said that to me because, and they're like, no, that wasn't what they meant. And, you have those kind of dynamics happening. But I find that the couples that take the time to communicate about what, and the person is willing to listen, it actually strengthens them. And then the spouse begins to be the one that speaks up on behalf of the person when those instances happen. So, I mean, what I'm saying is it also, in some cases, it allows the other side to kind of get a taste of what a whole nother race has experienced, and then they become a little bit more vocal. So it can actually empower the movement a little bit.
I do have this quick question to ask that it's been burning inside, but I want to ask my brethren, have you ever been attracted to, all of you, attracted to a white woman and possibly taking her out?
Yeah.
Okay. GP?
I've been on a date. Well, many years ago, I went on a date with a Caucasian young lady, and then we never went on a second date. But that was my only experience.
Okay. Pat?
And this is probably not. I've just never had an interest in. Why am I?
There's that pause again. See,
yeah. Pat, I wasn't interested, but I just wanted to just give it a try.
See what it would like.
GP, like you went to a sushi restaurant.
You know what? But again, when and I'm not saying this is about Oakwood or anything of that nature. My parents grew us up in a white neighborhood, Canarsie, Brooklyn, during that time. They didn't say it was danger or anything of that nature. We always knew from 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, going all the way up, that they didn't want to be with us. So if that should be the case, it wasn't even a thought process, because they would tell us, my mom and dad don't even want us to play with you. You understand what I'm saying? So that was a different thing altogether. It's not because I don't like them. I just never had an interest. And then going to Oakwood and seeing all the beautiful flowers at Oakwood, which garden do you want to go to?
How about you, Chuck?
I've never dated, but I have had a lot of friends, especially coming up, and I never thought twice about the fact that it was a white female.
It's just a friend.
I just get a little tired of us bowing to the cultural narrative.
Let
I
him
get
finish,
tired of
please.
that.
Baby.
And I really don't tolerate it that much, especially even before it really integrated into my family. I still resisted the cultural narrative. It was just a natural thing. I mean, let's face it, are we not all born in shape and iniquity? So we start off baked in.
Preach.
Automatically. And so whatever culture you come up with, you come up in, that baked in gets more baked in, and it's and so you come out of that cultural environment,
go ahead,
thinking about the things that the narrative has taught you to be the truth.
Say it.
And you're going to miss an opportunity to have a great relationship with a person of another ethnic group, because the baked in narrative says, oh no, you don't need to be with a white woman. Oh, you don't need to be with an Indian. You don't need to be. No, you don't need. Excuse me? I will be whoever I want to be with. You tell me, well, the folks in this neighborhood. Well, you know what? I'll get out of the neighborhood then. I mean, really?
Is there one?
I really believe.
Is there one? Is there one?
I really believe that God wants us to be intentional about looking beyond the break.
Wow, Chuck.
I'm with you, Chuck. I'm with you, buddy.
Wow.
Yes.
The rest of us are just guys with jobs. We have heard from the prophet now.
No, but if you think about it, it's about a lot of things. Cultural narratives. I know people that don't have an original thought.
True.
Whatever Wolf Blitzer says, that's what they say. Yeah, that's right. Those Russians, those rascals, trying to have no clue, have done no research, have done no, zooming out and looking at the broad scheme of things, because the adversary would have you be narrow-minded. Yeah. The adversary would have you have a scotoma. It's like those horses have those flaps on the side, and he only wants you to see this when there's a peripheral that you're totally missing.
My.
I'm done.
Preach, Chuck.
I'm done.
and then he did a Bradford. Ramped it up. That's enough of that.
Oh wait! I have my iPad in front of me right now, and I'm going to do an E.E. Cleveland. Nah, you're not ready for that.
And he used to do that too,
There is no finer moment than when Chuck gets revved up, man.
Oh yes,
we love it.
It's offering time.
I know.
Doors of the church are open.
The funny thing is, I didn't know any white people until I was in my 20s when I was at Andrews, because I grew up
Did
in
you
North
have
Philadelphia.
did you have teachers in grade school that were white?
Not in grade school, high school.
High school.
In high
Okay.
school, I might, in grade school, I don't remember any white teachers. Junior high school, I remember a couple of them, but it was pretty clear they didn't like me and I didn't like them. But in high school was different. I mean, we had some great teachers in high school, and their whiteness was not an impediment.
Immaterial.
And then at Oakwood, of course, we were doubly dipped in chocolate and toasted through and through. And then I went to Andrews, and my wife had gone to all white schools, and she had some white friends. And I never will forget coming home one day and seeing a bottle of suntan lotion in the house. And so I was trying to figure out which friend she had with her, and I said, "What's this?" And she said, "Oh, I use that because I'm laying in the sun." And I was like, "Oh, heck no!" I mean, the idea, I had no idea what white culture was like, and I had to get used to it. But I didn't have any white friends until the early 1990s when I took a class. I took my certification in parenting education. And for the first time in life, I got to know white people as human individuals, not just as representative of a group.
Humans.
Yeah, human individuals and as people.
Well, let me ask this. Let me ask the crew this. Let's talk about in the church, in the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
You can find me in the
Start
church.
there, and let's go out to other denominations that have mixed congregations. Wouldn't you think that the common denominator in those environments is Jesus?
You would think.
You would think. You would
The
think.
numerator could be anything. That's how the equation will come out based on what the numerator is. But the common denominator is the Lord. So if you share the common denominator, the numerator will have no effect at all.
I like that.
But think about it now. I mean, and Charles, he's definitely right. But think about it. The first,
you scare me. You scare me. Every time you say, "Yeah, but,"
the first problem in the church was a problem of difference, where the Grecian widows had a problem with the fact that they were not being treated the same as the Hebrew widows in the church. That was the first problem in the church. The first conundrum in evangelism was when Philip was walking down the road and he runs into a Negro in a coach. I mean, and I mean, I mean, you can see the reticence. The Lord tells him to go join up to this wagon. Tells him. He gets in the wagon and like, oh man, look what we got here. Not only is he black, but he's black without gender specification. I mean, and so difference has always been right there, seminal in the church, and so we still wrestle with it.
And I want to say that it's the experiences too that causes, like when I was listening to Pat when he was talking about his parents, when you've gone through something pretty horrific because of racism, it causes you to back off. So even though you're in the church, many of the Caucasians, as I was stating, and I wouldn't just say Caucasian, I would say blacks too, because of experiences that they encountered, with the opposite races. You don't mind the friendliness, but the intermarrying is what they feel like. You're going to get that opposition, even though you might not feel negative towards that person, but you just know how they're going to be treated. I think that's the main issue with, those who were, segregated. And then, our kids come up and they're integrated. So now they meet, they become friends, and life is not the same as it used to be, in their eyes. And so now they mingle and they get married in multiplicity.
Let me ask a question about the institutional church. Do you think the institutional Seventh-day Adventist church, is neutral when it comes to race and our relationships with each other. I've been, a denominational worker for a few years, and I've had to work with my white counterparts in this denomination. And there I've experienced, and you may have experienced this too, there's a camaraderie that is created, maybe on the project level, if you're doing evangelism, and there's like, hey brother, we're all together, except when the show is over. Okay, you go get in your car, they go get in their car, and you don't see them again. You don't talk, you don't text, you don't do anything until the next project. I'm concerned about that because to me, it looks like a form of integration.
Of course.
Like a form of righteousness. Well, we love everybody. We love everybody, even in church service. But when it's over, those relationships.
Nick said this and I kind of laughed it off. I'm sorry, Chuck. Nick said this and I kind of laughed it off when he said, oh, okay, Pennsylvania Conference, Allegheny East Conference. And I don't want to make a big deal out of it. What I do want to say is that I truly believe that regional conferences, and we're not going into that conversation, regional conferences are still needed now, especially
how come?
Because of the struggle. The struggle is still real.
Still inequality.
But the struggle is not predicated on or precipitated by or contingent upon the existence of hierarchical structures.
Sure, I agree. Let me say,
I'm with you, but I just want to
clarify. Let me break it down. Yeah. Let me break it down off of the regional conferences and talk about the cultural church then. And I was going to say, especially in urbanization. And the reason why I said that is because, yes, Chuck, I do believe that we're part of the remnant church. And I do believe that it's run by humanity. So therefore, it's going to be flawed some way or another.
Absolutely.
And what I have seen in the work and still being in the work is that it is it's flawed to the point where there's still inequality. Just visit certain buildings and walk into certain schools.
It's there.
You see that it's all still there. Even when you get on certain pulpits, even online, even if it's online, you get on certain pulpits, the kind of music. Our president couldn't say certain words of fear. And I'm not talking about our president. I'm talking about GC president couldn't say certain words of fear. We do need it. But let me cut Nick. What?
Those faces, boy. Those faces.
I have to because I'm trying to land this.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, in one breath, we talk about the egalitarianism and the equity and the equality and the fact that we, Chuck was eloquent about it, that we need to intentionally confront the fact that these divisions fight against what the gospel tries to produce.
Sure.
So the question I would ask is then when do we begin to intentionally break up our comfort and engage in the discomfort that would create the world that we say we're trying to go to? When do we do that? And how do we do that?
Well, there have been some intentional
I think we began
tries. And I've grown up, at North Philly Church. There was members from the White Conference who tried to set up a little inner city thing in Center City, Philadelphia. I mean, I've been through all those projects. We call them projects, but they're not everyday living reality. It's projects. We feel better. Well, we had the Black church with us today. I mean, it is. It's all optics. But what I have learned about the relevance and the need for regional conferences, really from my own research and my experience in doing this, it really went beyond a racial thing. It was really about an evangelistic thing. Regional conferences will minister to their cities because that's where we are.
Urban.
And so without the regional conference ministry, and I don't want this to sound like a racial thing, but without the regional conference ministry, it has been said by church historians that without the regional conference ministries, you would not have a North American division.
There's no question that the regional conferences were significant and absolutely essential in the evangelism of urban America and reaching Black people. I'd be the first to say that.
Mhm.
I'm talking about now.
Mhm.
And when people hear me talking about conferences, I'm not just regional conferences are just one thing. You know, we got other conferences too. I don't necessarily think we need them.
Well,
But,
well,
you know,
when you talk about now, it's the same now. We just don't talk about it.
Mm.
We just quietly leave the church, change our membership. We go, take our kids out of that school. We just do things quietly.
Flight.
We're not going around with signs. We just do it quietly. And I'm sure all of us have experienced some kind of transitional institution, whether it be a school, a church, or college. We've seen it happen slowly over the years, and it's still happening.
Mm.
Well, I could say this, going back to interracial, and with you talking about regional conferences, I feel like there's a home, or there's a comfort zone in someone who is interracially married. I
Mhm.
think they will have more of a comfort being in a church that understands what it's like to be talked about, what it's like to be marginalized, etc. Now, I'm not going to say it's absolutely better, but I do think that it lends for a cultural home. That's what I think. I think if they walked into another place, they'll be tolerated. So I think there's a difference between being tolerated and having a sort of comfort. Now, that's my idea of it, and we are coming to a close, so we are going to be. I don't want to hear from Nick right now.
Let me close with saying,
Go ahead.
I think that if talk about intentionality,
Yeah, that's true.
if we intentionally recognize that the adversary is the root of all of our separation,
Oh, here he goes again. Here he goes. Here he comes. Here he
if
comes.
we can get to that point,
Yep.
then it's not a color or a culture or whatever. We have to say that the adversary is the cause for all of our ills, especially in Ukraine right now. That's adversary.
Sure,
That's right.
sure.
Mhm.
That's adversary. But we beat each other up, and the adversary sits on the side and says, yeah, you guys go at it. Just go at it.
Yep.
And I think that if we just keep our eyes on the fact that Jesus really is the controller,
Amen.
then we can get beyond all these prejudices and things like that. It doesn't mean we're going to be perfect at it. But if we are intentional, and I like that word, Telly, it's intentionally saying, no, this is the adversary that's whispering in my ear.
Sure. Sure.
Not flesh and blood.
Anyway,
especially if he's whispering in another language.
right? He's not going to listen, Pat. He's not going to let that language go.
Not the other language.
Not the shoes.
Not the Israelites, and neither the shoes. So I got it. I thought about what it's like, and I think Marlene, we were talking about this in the green room earlier. I don't want anybody to leave here hating,
absolutely
or walking away from a love that God has intended you to have between somebody, because Tally will marry someone. Someone is waiting for him, and she could be of any race, and
probably a Dalmatian.
Oh no!
Once again, another show. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
We're not talking beastology here.
Well, he could have said zebra. So.
Could have. But when I think about it, all of us that are here now who have friends or will have friends that will marry, or that or friendships. Remember, I know we're talking about marriage a lot, and I know we're talking about dating a lot, but we're even talking about friendships. I mean, you love your friends, right? I mean, you do, right? So it's not just that piece of it, but the common denominator that Chuck was talking to, which I want us all to understand, is when I think about 1 Corinthians 13, I don't think about it just on the terms of a husband and a wife, but the way that we should treat each other. I have it up: envy, it does not boast, it's not proud, we don't dishonor each other. And I think if a couple or friends can love each other, Chuck, I'm with you at that. I believe you go ahead and you love each other. Forget everybody else.
That's
it doesn't matter what they're thinking. And if you can cope with it, and I use the word cope, Chuck, and I shouldn't have used it in the term that you and Nick said about it, like, yo, let's go ahead and see what they say about it. Sometimes you have to put the cushion around you in order to be able to get.
Absolutely.
So I want to leave with those who are listening to us. Please don't leave here with the thought process to say that you don't want to be with someone because of their race, or and I can tell you this: if you love someone, they won't be able to see that any. Oh, okay, Nick. Here we go. They're not
They just got on me about that.
Hold on, wait a minute. I didn't say color. They won't be able. They won't see the challenges, or they won't be.
Oh, they'll be worth it. You may see them.
I believe that. No, come on, Nick. Don't do that. I didn't say color.
They say they don't see the challenges, right?
Well, the seeing that you're talking about, Pat, is the mind's eye.
Okay, I'll go. I'm not listening to Nick right now. Everybody, do not pay attention to him. Don't even look at his facial expressions. Don't do any of that. He's used to radio. I'm trying to tell you this. Love is blind. Period.
Yeah.
It's blind. There's some things you're just not going to allow yourself to see. That's I'm not talking about color. You look past certain things.
Exactly. I mean, that's right. So if a black man marries a white wife, she says, I don't see the fact that your people endured 400 years of slavery, and that there's prejudice and bigotry that you have to deal with when we walk in a restaurant, and that they won't seat you until I walk in beside you. I don't see those things.
You know what I would tell her? I would tell her, come on over here, honey.
That's not fair.
Come on. And I'm going to say to her, when I'm hugging her tight, I'm going to say to her, don't listen to that guy, Nick. He's of the devil. He's not even. Listen, I'm going to throw this back over to our producer. Latasha, why don't you take it from here, or else we're going to be talking about bestiality and zebras.
There's so many different spinoffs we could have from this topic. But no, I think you're right. You know, talking about the fact that, one, we want to make sure people understand that interracial relationships, one, we're not condemned by the Bible, as some people would have you believe. You know, you're free to love whomever God sends your way, and also for us to kind of help us to be more supportive to interracial couples and to take some of our own prejudices away and embrace these couples as just what they are, couples, and brought together by God. So great conversation, guys. We hope that you all watching, you were filling the chat with your comments. We can't wait to hear what you think about this topic.
Yeah, I got a sneaky suspicion that some people are editing their list.
Right. What about the contact information? Because I'm sure someone's going to want to write us about this, especially Nick. I mean, in fact, you can give Nick's email address too.
Give him his phone.
Yeah, his email address
call
is
him.
what@gmail.com.
No, I think Patrick is gonna get the emails this time, you know.
Oh yeah. Somebody's gonna write Pat and say, "Buenos dias, señor." What is this? You know?
Yeah, that's what they're gonna say. ¿Cómo ça va? ¿Cómo ça va bien? Yeah.
But no, yes, please write us at upset@aecsda.com. We really appreciated all the commentary we got from last week's show about Black Adventist history. We jotted down some of the questions that you want for part 2. So we are taking notes based on what you share with us. So please write us at upset@aecsda.com. And we look forward to hearing from you all. As always, next week, we'll be going into March, which is Women's History Month. And so our topics will center around women.
Yay!
And so we have a very interesting, kind of unorthodox topic that we're going to tackle next week. But I'll leave that little cliffhanger. But you definitely want to join this conversation next Sunday. So we hope to see you all then. All right, guys, it's been great. Thank you for the discussion. We hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and we'll see you next Sunday at 6 p.m.
Bye,
Take care.
Arrivederci. Sayonara.
Sayonara.
Pat doesn't like me now.
Hasta la vista, baby.